Welcome to our channel. Enjoy the video.
June 1977. Deep in the rolling hills of eastern Oklahoma, surrounded by towering oak trees and quiet woodland trails, sat a place where hundreds of young girls came every summer to make memories that would last a lifetime. It was called Camp Scott, a peaceful Girl Scout camp filled with laughter, campfires, songs, and the promise of adventure. Parents hugged their daughters goodbye, watching buses disappear down dusty roads. For most families, it was just another exciting week at summer camp. But for three little girls, it would become the last journey they ever took. By sunrise, Camp Scott would transform into one of the most infamous crime scenes in American history. A case so horrifying that it shocked the nation, changed camp safety forever, and continues to raise unsettling questions nearly 5 decades later. Because before the first campers had even unpacked their bags, someone had already left behind a terrifying warning. A warning that no one believed. A perfect place for summer. Camp Scott covered hundreds of acres of forests and open fields near the small town of Locust Grove, Oklahoma. It had welcomed Girl Scouts for generations. Children spent their days hiking woodland trails, learning survival skills, swimming, singing around campfires, and building lifelong friendships. For many girls, attending Camp Scott was a dream. On June 12, 1977, more than 100 campers arrived, excited for the first session of the summer. Among them were 3 girls who had never met before that day. 8-year-old Lori Lee Farmer, full of curiosity and excitement. 9-year-old Michelle Guse, eager to experience camp for the very first time. And 10-year-old Doris Denise Milner, the oldest of the 3, thrilled to spend a week surrounded by nature. They were assigned to Tent 8 in the Kiowa unit, a quiet section of the camp located near the edge of the woods. None of them knew they were being placed in what would soon become the center of a nightmare. A chilling discovery before camp opened. Just days before the campers arrived, a camp counselor made a discovery that seemed strange, but not alarming enough to stop the opening of camp. Hidden inside an abandoned building on the property was a handwritten note. The message was disturbing. It warned that 3 girls would be murdered at the camp. At first glance, it sounded like the kind of cruel prank someone might leave behind. Law enforcement was notified, but there was no clear suspect, no immediate threat, and no evidence suggesting the warning was real. The note was largely dismissed. Camp preparations continued as planned. Looking back, many investigators and family members would ask the same heartbreaking question. What if someone had taken that warning seriously? Could everything that followed have been prevented? The first night. As the sun disappeared behind the Oklahoma hills, Camp Scott came alive. Girls laughed around campfires. Counselors led songs that echoed through the trees. Flashlights danced between tents as campers settled into sleeping bags, sharing stories and whispering long after lights out. It felt completely safe. The adults believed the children were protected. The girls believed they were surrounded by friends. But beyond the glow of the campfire, beyond the circle of tents, someone may have been watching from the darkness. Waiting. No one inside Camp Scott realized that before dawn, everything would change forever. While the camp slept peacefully, an unseen figure moved silently through the forest. By the time the first counselor stepped outside the next morning, Camp Scott's joyful atmosphere had been replaced by unimaginable horror. Night settled over Camp Scott with a calm that seemed almost perfect. The laughter from the campfire had faded. Lanterns were extinguished one by one, and the forest reclaimed its silence. Crickets chirped in the distance, while a gentle breeze rustled the leaves above the tents. Inside Tent 8, Lori Lee Farmer, Michelle Guse, and Doris Denise Milner drifted off to sleep after an exciting first day of camp. Like the other girls, they believed they were in one of the safest places imaginable. What no one knew was that someone was moving through the darkness beyond the tree line. A silent night. The layout of Camp Scott placed some tents closer to the woods than others. Tent 8 sat near the edge of the Kiowa unit, making it more isolated than many of the surrounding campsites. Later investigations suggested that, sometime during the night, an unknown person approached the tent unnoticed. The camp was quiet, and there were no security cameras or modern surveillance systems, common for the era. Exactly what happened in those dark hours remains known only through the evidence left behind. Investigators reconstructed the sequence as carefully as they could, but many details could never be known with certainty. Dawn brings horror. As the first light of June 13 spread across the camp, counselors began their normal morning routines. One counselor walking near Tent 8 noticed what appeared to be sleeping bags lying outside in the grass. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then she looked closer. What she discovered would shock not only everyone at Camp Scott, but the entire nation. The 3 girls had been killed. The joyful atmosphere of the summer camp disappeared in an instant, replaced by confusion, fear, and disbelief. Camp staff immediately contacted law enforcement, and authorities rushed to the scene. The remaining campers were quickly gathered and sent home as parents desperately sought information about their children. The investigation begins. Parents everywhere questioned whether places once considered completely safe could truly protect their children. As detectives pieced together witness statements and evidence, attention soon turned to a man with a troubling criminal history who had previously been linked to violent offenses. But suspicion alone would not be enough. To bring justice, investigators would need evidence that could stand up in court. Police believed they had found the man responsible. Yet when the case finally reached the courtroom, the outcome would divide investigators, legal experts, and the victims' families for decades to come. The murders at Camp Scott stunned the nation. As news spread across America, investigators faced enormous pressure to solve the case quickly. 3 young lives had been taken in a place where families expected absolute safety, and the public demanded answers. Detectives followed every lead they could find. Soon, one name kept resurfacing. A man named Jean Leroy Hart. The prime suspect. Hart was no stranger to law enforcement. He had previously been convicted of serious crimes and had escaped from prison before the Camp Scott murders. Familiar with the forests around the camp, he was considered capable of hiding in the rugged terrain for long periods. Witnesses reported suspicious activity in the area, and investigators uncovered evidence they believed pointed toward him. After an extensive search through the surrounding hills and woods, Hart was eventually captured. For many, it seemed the mystery had finally been solved. But in a courtroom, suspicion isn't enough. Every claim had to be backed by evidence. The trial. The trial attracted national attention. Prosecutors argued that the physical evidence, witness testimony, and Hart's background formed a compelling case. The defense challenged that evidence, arguing that it did not prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. In 1979, forensic science was far less advanced than it is today. DNA testing did not yet exist, and investigators relied on methods that were often less precise. Jurors faced an incredibly difficult decision. After hearing weeks of testimony, they returned with a verdict. Not guilty. The courtroom was stunned. For the families of Lori, Michelle, and Doris, the verdict was heartbreaking. While the legal system had spoken, many people were left wondering whether the truth had really been uncovered. Questions that never went away. Although Jean Leroy Hart was acquitted, the debate did not end. Years later, advances in DNA technology allowed investigators to re-examine some of the evidence. Modern testing produced results that have continued to fuel discussion among investigators, legal experts, and the public. Some believe the later evidence strengthened the case against Hart, while others argue it still falls short of providing complete certainty. Because Hart had already been acquitted, he could not be tried again for the same crime under U.S. double jeopardy protections. The Camp Scott murders remained one of America's most haunting and controversial unsolved, or at least deeply disputed, criminal cases. Nearly 5 decades later, many questions still remain unanswered. Today, the Camp Scott murders continue to haunt investigators and families alike. New forensic techniques, unanswered questions, and the tragedy's lasting impact on children's camp safety ensure that this case is remembered not only for its horror, but for the mysteries that still surround it. Nearly half a century has passed since that summer morning at Camp Scott. The tents are gone. The laughter that once echoed through the Oklahoma woods has long since faded. But for the families of Lori Lee Farmer, Michelle Guse, and Doris Denise Milner, time has never erased the pain of June 13, 1977. Their story remains one of the most heartbreaking and debated true crime cases in American history. A legacy beyond the investigation. The Camp Scott murders changed far more than one community. Summer camps across the United States began rethinking how they protected children. Security measures were strengthened, counselor training improved, and many camps introduced stricter nighttime procedures, better lighting, emergency communication systems, and more comprehensive safety planning. The tragedy became a turning point in how organizations approached the responsibility of keeping young campers safe. While no safety system can eliminate every risk, the lessons learned from Camp Scott influenced generations of camp operators. The questions that still remain. Despite decades of investigation, many aspects of the case continue to be debated. Was the mysterious warning note connected to the crime? Did investigators identify the correct suspect? Could modern forensic science reveal something that investigators in 1977 simply couldn't detect? And perhaps the most haunting question of all. If the warning had been treated as a genuine threat instead of a prank, could 3 young lives have been saved? These questions have never received universally accepted answers. For many, that uncertainty is what makes this case so unforgettable. Remembering the victims. It's easy to become absorbed by the mystery. But behind every headline, every court document, and every theory were 3 real children. Lori Lee Farmer, Michelle Guse, Doris Denise Milner. They arrived at Camp Scott excited to make new friends, sing around campfires, and enjoy the adventure of summer. Instead, they became victims of a tragedy that would forever change countless families and leave an enduring mark on American criminal history. Their names deserve to be remembered not because of the violence they suffered, but because of the lives they were never given the chance to live. The Camp Scott murders continue to challenge investigators, historians, and true crime researchers. While evidence has been re-examined and new technologies have provided additional insight, the case remains the subject of ongoing debate, and some questions may never be answered with complete certainty. Sometimes the most disturbing mysteries aren't the ones with no suspect. They're the ones where people still can't agree on whether justice was ever truly served. If this story made you think, let us know your perspective in the comments. Do you believe the evidence ultimately identified the right person, or do you think the full truth is still hidden somewhere in the Oklahoma woods? Because even after all these years, the silence of Camp Scott still speaks.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss our next video. See you in the next one.